Alright guys, I'm going to start firing this up. Should be about ready to go here in a few minutes, so I'll give some time for folks to get in. Make sure everything's working okay. So I'll probably wait about 5 minutes. Hey, Janice, forward. What's up, guys? And Sir Rommel, I knew you were already here. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's Saturday. We're in the middle of packing to move into our new house, which looks like it's going to be in about a week and a half or so. And we decided to order out, but it ended up taking an hour. We didn't think it would take that long to get here, so kind of shoved chicken tenders and french fries down my face as quickly as I could so I could get ready for this. Yes, so Taylor, I'm sorry your gig got canceled, but I'm glad that you're here. So thanks for being a part of this. Are you a musician? I do a little bit of that myself. Used to have a band that I traveled with, but now I actually mostly just do acoustic shows, piano, acoustic guitar. But yeah, so this is my army ready to go into the battle here that we're going to start in just a couple minutes, which is river crossing. One of the battles I don't like that much, as far as strictly from a selfish standpoint, that it's one you end up, if you mess up, you'll lose a lot of men. So I want to be careful here, because it's easy to accidentally make a mistake and really cost yourself in a battle like river crossing. Excuse me. So we'll get started here in another minute or so, and we'll dive right in. We're going to get through river crossing, Logan's Crossroads, and Shiloh tonight. Shiloh actually shouldn't take as long as I otherwise thought it might, just because of the strategy that I'm going to use. So awesome. Very cool. Traveling drummer and audio engineer. Important thing to have, both of those things. All right, so more folks will jump in, I'm sure, as we get started and as we build up to Shiloh. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this one, and I'll kind of let you see what my thought process is with it. The scaling really happened as I added my last two brigades. Initially, as I started to build my army, I had about 10,000 men. He had about 9,000. So I went ahead and added two more brigades of infantry with 4,000 men, and it jumped his up about a little over 3,000. So my thought process there was that in a battle like this, if I play my cards right, I can inflict a lot of casualties. And the whole point is to try and keep that number low. That number that he has right here, which is his army composition. And the lower I can keep that going into Shiloh, the better. I'm just going to try, unlike as the Confederates, where I'm trying to keep my army intact, as the Union, I know that resources are less of an issue for me. So the more I can hit him and cause sustained casualties, the better. And as you can see, the armory especially is nice. He's got a really just terribly armed force right now. Flank around south, use skirmishers, keep infantry occupied. No, the horsemen are cavalry, traditional melee cavalry. I don't use a lot of the mounted infantry or dragoons, as they might be called in other armies. I will at some point as I get a bigger force and I can be more specialized. I'll definitely get that. And Sir Rommel is in character tonight as the Prussian officer who has joined us for this evening, the Prussian observer. The Hussars, yes. So yeah, let me talk through kind of what my thought process is here before we get started. Typically what I've done in this battle is I'll bring my force right up to about here. Depending on how aggressive he chooses to be, sometimes he will actually charge up at me If I'm lucky, he'll do that, and I can inflict some casualties there, because most of my casualties I'm going to suffer in this battle would be coming up this hill and trying to hit him after the river crossing. Now, when I played through this earlier, just trying to do a test run, I only lost about 2,500 men doing the battle, and I inflicted about 5,000 casualties. And that was, excuse me, I just finished eating, so I'm still processing that. That was with a traditional kind of attack here. Obviously, there's a lot to be said for going around this way, and thereby avoiding that trap. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I know Sir Rommel has kind of offered his opinion on flanking around the south. And so what do you guys think? I mean, that's an option. Just bring the whole force around the south. Of course, I limit myself time-wise, but this is one of those battles that you can keep going for a while after the time runs out. So I could go that way, come up through here. It'll take a while. My men will be exhausted, but it's an option. Keep some skirmishers. Maybe keep my artillery up here to keep them occupied. So give me your thoughts on that, and I'll kind of start the attack here in a few minutes. And as always, if you're in the room and you want to say hi, let me know you're here. Just say hello, and I will try to pay as much attention as I can without sacrificing my army in the process. It would definitely take way too long to bring all my artillery around. But my concern is not leaving enough here to protect my artillery. Yeah, a full brigade, that's not a bad idea. Leaving one of my brigades and then some skirmishers. That I can see the wisdom in that. Keep my suppliers there too, my supplies. I'll slide these guys down this way to get them a little closer, but then I can still shoot the skirmishers back. Capture and try and capture the train gun. Shut up, Marlin. Shut up. You're giving me bad memories, man. I have a little PTSD from that attack on the train gun. Yeah, see, that's my concern, is that he attacks there. And maybe I even kind of keep the cavalry back, at least for now. Just to help with melee combat if it comes to that. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit start. And then pause this bad boy. Start breaking off those skirmishers. I'll put them up here into these woods for now. Maybe that's the place to go with my artillery too. The only thing is those 24 pounders might be a little short on range from the woods. So I know he's going to keep at least a couple of his brigades over on this side where I'm going to attack. So I shouldn't expect the full force to come this way. Right, it does give me a reserve if it doesn't occur. That makes sense. Yeah, and Sir Rommel, you're absolutely right, and you'll see that more and more as the game progresses, that my new units are going to be the front line, and the hopefully eventually 2- and 3-star units will be the reserves to take less casualties as things go along. I am going to keep a 1-star over here to protect them. And I'm going to go ahead and, I think, keep everything into the woods for now. It looks like, yeah, you can see the 24 pounders, their range is only about to right there for now. But honestly, keeping the artillery in the woods is not a bad idea. Plus, for no other reason than it protects my my artillery from his. Yeah, the only reason I'm nervous about pushing forward is for those 2 units that can use canisters, my Napoleons and my 6-pounders, is that I don't give myself a lot of freedom to be able to back the heck up if it comes to that. And I don't want to endanger all of my artillery. So there's his skirmishers. Hold on, I'm going to line these guys up. I'll go ahead and get the green units going first. But I will push them forward once my flanking attack gets into place. Once he knows that I'm coming this way and he can't afford to send units across anymore. Yeah. And as the Union's an interesting challenge because so many of the battles require me to be on the offensive, that anywhere I can be safe and cause him to attack me, I always welcome those opportunities. Of course, that's a strategy that doesn't always pay off. I was actually... I'm in the middle of a book right now, an audio book. I'm in the car a lot about World War I. It's fantastic, but it's like 60 hours long when you listen to it. And I'm on to the part about Verdun. And obviously I'm talking about a completely different war than what I'm playing right now. But they were talking about how the German strategy at Verdun was actually to attack just enough to draw the French out and cause them to attack and just lose men throwing their attacks against the Germans. And but in the process, that strategy actually failed them because they found themselves with an opportunity to actually take Verdun, and they didn't do it because they didn't want to. But then they ended up later on actually trying to take Verdun and lost a lot more men than they would have if they had just taken it to begin with. All right, so I just kind of wanted to make sure I got the green units a chance to get out front. Lyle's kind of lagging behind here. Looks like he dropped his skirmishers back. So we'll probably go ahead and start inching up once I get my battle line into position and I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and speed up a little bit here because we got a lot of ground to cover. Yeah, for all their brilliance, they did lose, but all things being equal, I think it would have been pretty quickly over. I think if you'd had Lee and Jackson on the Union side and put McClellan on the Confederate side, the war's over in 1862. So I've done an attack from right here before. I'm thinking about how far over I want to go. Condition of my men, of course, is a factor. They're already at 76%. But once they're in position, I'll move everybody up here. What's the audio book? Yes, it is on Audible. That's actually where I'm listening to it, is on Audible. Here, let me pull up my phone and I can tell you. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's really, really good. A World Undone is the name of the audio book. Let me see if I can see who the author was. Oh, we don't want to listen to it. It's A World Undone, The Story of the Great War, 1914 to 1918, by G.J. Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R. It's really, really good. It's really the first major work on World War I that I've found myself getting into, and I'm glad that I did. So I think I'll go right to here, assuming he lets me do that. And then I can move the 2-star units up behind them. Please don't give us McClellan. He would have surrendered to himself. Yes, because he would have believed that he was outnumbered by himself 2-1. Alright, who's attacking me? I hate when I hear the noise of a melee attack, but I don't see one happening anywhere. And there's very clearly the sound of one. What's happening? I don't understand. Oh, that's why. Okay, let's pause. Oh, flank shot. Okay, so he came out. Smart move. So he's going to force me into kind of coming up from this side, and that's fine. I get it. Come on, Barton, get it turned. Alright, and now we're going to go ahead and advance these guys. I'm going to throw a couple skirmisher units down in here. Of course, Loomis is going to get fired on by the artillery. Oh, I've got a Loomis artillery unit too. So we'll start getting all this stuff moved out there. Oh boy. So he came right in on me with this melee attack. That's fine. Chickamauga flashbacks. Yeah, I don't know if you... I haven't done the third part of Chickamauga yet. I'm trying to decide how best to go about that because I got a little slow and I stuck myself in a position where I've got to take the one objective before the end of the second day, and it's going to be tough because it's heavily guarded. But it was cool that I discovered that I had a couple of relatives there, a couple of uncles who were at Chickamauga. And I had at least one ancestor who would have been at Chickamauga, but he'd already been discharged for medical reasons from his unit before they went to Chickamauga. Alright, so let's... Alright, hold up, Lyle. Okay, here comes his artillery. So we'll get these guys in a position. And it looks like I'm going to be able to go ahead and bring my artillery up to the edge of this hill without any opposition from his infantry. Alright, and I've definitely got superior firepower working in my favor here. So we're just going to go ahead and start using it. My only concern for my left flank right now is his artillery fire. So I'm going to wait until I can get this last brigade up into position, if I haven't already driven LZ off by that point. Yeah, see, he's going after my artillery. That's okay. He's hitting the Napoleons better than the 24-pounders, which are actually, I think, still out of range. I'm going to get my 10-pounders firing on his artillery. Actually, I think I'll get everybody firing on them right now. Alright, LZ shouldn't last too much longer here. Hey, Rayrard! Welcome. Good to see you. If you haven't already said hello, anybody in the room, go ahead and say hello. Let me know you're here. So let's go ahead and just speed this up for just a second here. We're going to watch LZ drop back in just a second. There he goes. Alright, he hasn't quite broken yet. He'll be routed probably in the next volley that comes from Barton. Why are they standing in the open field? Look, they are receiving massive losses. Should have moved to das cornfield just in front of them. Alright, let's go ahead and start moving up. I know he's going to have at least one more brigade back here somewhere that I just don't see yet. Lure him with the skirmishers to attack you with all his ridge troops. You know what? That's true. That's a good point. That does work. I was trying that out on Shiloh by dropping units temporarily out of the fortifications long enough to get him to start a charge, and then you immediately plop him back in, and it seems to work every time. Let me pause for just a second because I think I'm making contact over here. Okay, I found his other brigade. If I can drive these skirmishers off, I can maybe get to turn on Fulkerson a little bit. Yeah, he's gonna come with his cavalry maybe. I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous about this. Turn around and run. He's going to shoot into the back of these skirmishers. Oh, he didn't quite get there. Oh, I expect I'll lose more. I'm thinking more. More in the neighborhood. I'm probably going to lose about 2,500. By the time this is all said and done, if I push it, trying to inflict maximum losses on him. Burton's getting lit up over here. I've got to get some extra firepower on Scott. He's turned his artillery now on this side. It's going to take a little while to do this, but I want to get my cavalry over here. Alright, I'm going to bring McCook over to cover Lyle's flank. But I want to get Lyle over here to do this. Yeah, AI's behaving smartly again. He has his moments. Yes, the Dark Knights are there, even though they're not commanded by... No, dude, McCook, I wanted you facing that way. Even though they're not commanded by Bane anymore. The only thing I'm missing right now over here on the right flank that I wish I had... McCook will not... I can't get him to hold. He refuses to stay facing that direction. Hold. No, not that. Jeez. This is frustrating. McCook, face that way. Wow. Alright, I gotta drop him back this way and do it, I guess. Oh my gosh. Why? Yeah, Bane will pop up, and you can bet that I will make sure he gets in his proper place when the time comes. Yeah, I'm kind of wishing now that I had just done my usual attack across the river. Just because of the frustration that I'm having right now with this attack. Because usually what happens is if you attack across the river, you take 1 or 2 really bad shots from him, but you push him back pretty fast. And then these guys actually will attack at me. But I usually have a decent position by that point. Alright, the fun part now is that I get to bring Barton back up and hit him in his flank. And as soon as I can drive off 1 or 2 of these other units, I can go in with my cavalry. Yeah, you can win with 1 objective, as long as you inflict 5% more casualties on the enemy. Oh, Walton, where are you going? Oh, jeez. Come on, dude. Well, there went 50 men for no reason. Yeah, it's kind of like with Shiloh. The whole thing is you can advance and take the objectives to win, or you can just sit tight as long as you've inflicted 20% more casualties on the enemy, which is kind of the way that I'm planning to go with that one. Yeah, I'm losing significantly more casualties doing it this way than if I had just done the attack across the river that I normally go with. I think in hindsight, I'm kind of wishing I had done that. Now I've got some supply issues here. Yeah, Rayrard, that's usually what I do as well, is I try to lure them into attacking me down in here, inflict some casualties, and then I can follow that up, and it's a lot easier to do it that way. Yeah. Yeah, the AI, at least on this battle, for some reason, I can't seem to lure him across. I've been able to do that in the past, but I played through it twice earlier today, and I couldn't get him to follow me across then either. Alright, so we're good on that part now. And just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to hold off on finishing the battle. Okay, there we go. It's showing up on the check mark now. I think I'm going to wait because Fulkerson's coming at me. And at the very least, I can inflict a few more casualties on him before we wrap this one up. So let's get another volley or two into him. And we'll call it a day. So far from an ideal victory on this one. But honestly, at this point, I just want to kind of press ahead and make our way to the Battle of Shiloh. All right, so 2,000 for me, 2,200 for him. When I did this one earlier, it was about 25 on my side and about 5,000 on his side. But Stonewall was being stubborn this time around. So let's just take a look. I did lose a lieutenant colonel deceased, got one promoted to colonel, so that's good. Looks like I grabbed some hunter rifles off of some of his skirmishers. All right, so yeah, it was saying 18 minutes to contest, but as soon as it showed me that green check mark on the victory conditions, I knew I was safe to go. So early on in the campaign, it's tough to get decent leaders. You end up with a lot of colonels commanding divisions and lieutenant colonels commanding units. I'm actually going to swap out right here and put that colonel in charge of some infantry. All right, so we got a career point to spend. Yeah, I could have finished him, but I don't know how long it would have let me go with that, Janice, because we were in the late afternoon. So I'm just going to call it a day on that one. I'm thinking I'm going to go politics, maybe. I'd love to have those extra 2 recon points, but I'm going to wait until after Shiloh to do that, I think. Hello, Ed Dix. Welcome. Good to see you again. All right, we're going to go politics. Let's go ahead and take a look. Another fun one now. Logan's Crossroads. This is one where you start with very few, but you quickly get the rest of your forces. However, you only get to take 9 brigades into it. So, unlimited power. All right, so I'm going to drop. I've actually got to create a second corps here. Or I'm going to anyway. We're going to go ahead and drop the cavalry out on this one. We got to get down to 9 brigades. I think I'll drop my 24 pound. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll drop out the 10 pounders. You've never touched your army recon. It's all about the money. That's right. For me, it's just a personal preference for how I play the game. Yes, Sir Rommel. Your snipers are coming, sir. I promise. The main thing for me is I like to know. It affects my strategy when I know how many men are on the battlefield and who I'm fighting. So it's just kind of a personal preference with me to have those 4 recon points so I know exactly what's going on. I like to have that information. Okay, so let's go ahead and get refit. Pretty soon we'll start getting some weapons that are not 1842s. In fact, I may go ahead. I can spend 7 points and get myself some Springfield 1855s. I think that's a worthwhile investment. Yeah, snipers do require a lot of micromanagement, something that is not really available to me while I'm watching a chat and playing at the same time. Everybody's still relatively inexperienced, so it doesn't affect things too much to go with rookies. Although it also doesn't cost a lot to go with veterans. So I guess you can look at it either way. Let's make sure that all of our... Yeah, we got to just kind of replenish our people a little bit here. Okay. So I've got about 8,000 men sitting in my force pool that'll be available. Yes, loading up on politics and economy is the direction I'm going to go. So right now, here's what we're looking at going to Logan's Crossroads. And this is a battle I'll fly through pretty quickly. We're going to have about a 2,000 man advantage. I've got those guns that I'll keep up close, especially the smoothbores. The tricky part here, of course, is that you don't have everybody right away. So what I tend to do is just kind of pull back. I don't want the 24 pounders first. Give me the Napoleons. There we go. In fact, maybe I don't want the guns at all. I think I'm just going to go with another unit of infantry to start. Alright, and we're going to pull everybody back to start. And then I get the reinforcements come fairly soon. So I'm just going to give up the objective, and then I'll take it back. I'm going to keep everybody kind of concentrated right in the center. And we'll go ahead and get some skirmishers out here on the flanks, just to be abundantly cautious. Yeah, the northern woodlands, honestly, I've tried different things. I've tried these woods as well. But you get the reinforcements so quickly. And honestly, I'm just going to kind of hang out in the center and let him come at me as much as I can. I'm going to go ahead and start advancing up the hill. I don't want to be on that back side of that hill there. Alright, so he's there. I was just about to send my skirmishers out so I could see what was going on. And then he got there. Usually try to block the northern attack and then turn to face the east when the reinforcements come, and you have to run them in. Alright, so this is only an hour and a half for this battle. I'm going to let everybody get into position here. I think I can go ahead and advance a little further up. Try and get up to the top of this hill as best I can. It's kind of hard to see, but there, this gives a little better view of things. Yeah, you know, this is a spot where mounted infantry would be nice. And honestly, in this case, I'm just thinking about maximizing my casualties that I inflict versus what I lose on this one. I'm not looking to get too fancy or too aggressive on this battle. I'm going to let him come at me as much as possible. I'm going to get these 6-pounders up a little further. I think these are the Napoleons. Yep. Oh, found a unit hiding in the woods. Yeah, and see, this is where... yeah, as long as it isn't a repeat of the second battle. This is where I'd really like to know, excuse me, how many forces are left on the battlefield. Because if I see that I'm gaining an advantage, then I would definitely press these attacks more. Of course, I can somewhat get a sense of that by looking at the numbers here. Loomis is the guy that's kind of taking it on the chin right now. I'm going to go ahead and plug his skirmishers back in. Oh, I got two Loomises right next to each other. That's awesome. So I'm just going to keep inching forward. And just try to keep the fire superiority on these guys wherever I can. Hey, HOI4, welcome back. Good to see you again. And right there, I've got the objective, so there's really nothing else tactically that I need to win. Alright, I see what you're doing there. See, this is the AI that I like, the one who makes things easy on me and allows me to inflict a lot of casualties on him. Get a brigade to flank on the left. You mean my left or his? Because I'm looking at his left, and the only thing that makes me nervous is I'm wondering whether or not he's got another unit out here in these woods, and I'm a little nervous about that. And Barton looks like he may break on me soon. Classic open field duel, yes. It's all about tactics on this one. It's all about getting the flanks. I'll go ahead and advance Lyle here. I'm going to break off some skirmishers from him to just get a look in these woods. And if everything looks clear, I'll bring them around. Napoleon would be proud. 24 pounders, yeah, you're right, move them up. I just want to be careful I don't suffer casualties with those. Alright, get the skirmishers out there, and we'll go ahead and bring Lyle around his flank. I think in a second here I'm going to drop McCook back and give Harris a crack at this. Yeah, see, this is where I kind of wish I had some cavalry, maybe, but his infantry's awfully close, and he's back. He's dropping back now. He is giving up the field. Bloody, senseless, and always sucks. Yeah, open field duels. Yeah, whenever possible, I hate it. I hate not having cover, not having those woods. It just blows my mind to think about battles, situations like day one at Gettysburg, for example, where you had the 26th North Carolina and the 24th Michigan literally standing to where they could have a conversation with each other, firing volleys into each other's faces. That just... how people stood up to that, I can't wrap my mind around that kind of courage. The weapons were definitely well ahead of the tactics. Some of those expensive Spencer carbines so you can break infantry super easily. Yeah, you know, I've thought about that too. About having even one or two units of those for on my flanks. It's not a bad idea. I'm going to drop Lyle back. Whoa! Hold up. Alright, come on. Fire those bad boys. He's nice and close for canister. And friendly fire means nothing on this game, which is beautiful. And Gibson just paid for it. Oh yeah, we're inflicting some nice casualties now. Yeah, forward, I would agree with you. I think by the time you get to 1863 and you're at Gettysburg, absolutely. All right, so Loomis broke in the center, but I'm not worried. There's no way Russell exploits that. But just to be safe, we'll bring McCook back over. I mean, look at my artillery. Just those three pieces, those three batteries of artillery have caused 1,000 casualties themselves. John Payne, that's an interesting tactic. One of the things I usually spam the fall back button when I get caught in the melee situation like that, but I'll give that a try. Detaching skirmishers and then reattaching them. Oh, here comes Johnson. I don't know what he is thinking with stuff like this. But it's going to be pretty for my 24-pounders. If they get a shot off. Alright, we got to bring Harris back over this way. Oh, Johnson surrendered. Thank you very much. Wow. You almost feel bad about men making a charge like that and him losing 200 men in seconds. Almost. You know what? I'm inflicting so many casualties right now, I don't feel the need to end this one just yet. Let's see if he'll come at me again. In the meantime, we're going to bring these skirmishers up. Right here is where having a couple units of artillery or of cavalry would be glorious. Oh yeah, we're gonna let him keep just melting away at my lines right now. Oh yeah, forward, you're absolutely right. By 1864, you're looking at foreshadowing of World War I. That's when the tactics started to kind of be shaped by the technology for the first time. Alright, I think we're going to call this one a day here pretty soon, if for no other reason than I want to leave plenty of time to get into Shiloh. Plus, he's in the woods now, so things are going to kind of settle down. So we're going to finish this one off. A good day, a very good day for my army. 2,200 casualties, 5,200 inflicted. Plus, we'll get some exchange there, so that'll be nice. Ooh, a bunch of farmer rifles that I can't use. I did rescue about 1,000, so really it wasn't a huge loss for me in terms of the weapons that I lost. Okay, so here we go. Now we start thinking about Shiloh. And I'm probably going to be outnumbered on day one at Shiloh. That's okay. I don't need more troops than him to win. He's got 40,000. I've got almost 27. Of course, I've got another 13 there. So I will have about 40,000, but he's going to probably scale up. So I want to look for just a second. His full army is at 57 to 62. So he's got some room to scale. All right, we're going to go ahead and go politics again. All right, I think for the most part, I could probably get away with veterans as I build this.
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir.
Trying to get some more experience in my army here. All right. Oh, 12. There we go. All right, so I'm just looking to see where things stand with my army before I start building new units. So this is what I've got right now. Obviously, because of my army organization, I can't go any bigger than that, but that's not a problem. I've got plenty of room in my second corps for additional units. Could you arm one brigade with Lorenz's and call them the Prussian Volunteer Brigade? Sure, why not? Yeah, make sure I have a full 35K wagon in both corps. Absolutely. Hornet's Nest is where it's at. You may not like my strategy then. I'm kind of a fall back and wait sort of guy and let him hurl everything at Pittsburgh Landing because I'm trying to preserve my army, and by the time I get to Pittsburgh Landing, I can use some of Buell's troops from the Army of the Ohio. But yes, let's take a look and see what the cost would be on that right now on the Lorenz's. Yeah, kind of expensive. But how about we do it as a slightly smaller... boy, that's an expensive unit to outfit, but why not? Let's have fun. As you can see, I'm not going to have a lot of extra money for outfitting my second corps. Can spend some if I need to, but I want to try and avoid that if possible. So let's take a look here just real quick before I finish outfitting my force. See where things stand. I'm at 30,000. He's at 41,000. I'm curious to know how much scaling is going to happen. James Hartley, hello. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. They can mass... I'm confident in my ability to hold at that point, but we'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and, at this point, we're down to a lieutenant colonel. I do have enough farmer. If I choose to go that route, I'm not sure that I want to. Now, the other cool thing, of course, is that on day 2, I can replenish my army if I need to. I want to see how much he's scaling at this point. Yeah, see? Wow, okay. How much did he go up by when I went up by 2,000? He's at 43,292. Let's take a look at this. $41. So he goes up by about 1,400 for me going up by 2,000. So yeah, it's worth it for me to go ahead and put those troops in there. I'm down to majors at this point, so I don't want to go to full-size units because they're going to suffer on command. Let's see where that puts me. That's what I'm thinking, Janice, is that I don't mind the scaling on this one because, honestly, it's just more men for me to kill. I'd like to see the actual General Shiloh just say, you know what, I'll just fall back to Pittsburgh and wait for like 2 hours. Obviously, and I've had people comment on this, that they'd like to see on a battle like this, for example, that you don't get time to make those decisions because obviously the Union was taken by surprise on day one at Shiloh and very nearly overrun. But there was actually a colonel, and I can't remember his name, but he was killed at the Battle of Shiloh, who actually prevented what could have been a much worse catastrophe by kind of scouting ahead and finding out that the Confederates were coming. So they weren't completely 100% taken by surprise. But obviously I'm reacting to what I know is happening. So that, it's kind of gaming the system a little bit, I know. But maybe we'll go up to 1,500 in these brigades. I think I can do that without too much of a penalty on efficiency. Yeah, it only goes from 10 down to 9. No, we're out of Springfields. Okay. No, we're out of money. That's what we're out of. Okay. That's what we're going to go with for now. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. I think this will be enough to get the job done. Okay, we're up against about 45,000 men to my 36,000. He's got 120 guns. But again, I'm going to get reinforcements from Buell by the time the day's over. I should be able to hang on for dear life. But my apologies up front. It's going to be a little boring at first. Yeah, forward, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that colonel. I forget his name, but I know he died in the Battle of Shiloh. Yeah, you can't lose if you know all their maneuvers ahead of time. I didn't sell the crap guns. There's only a few of them. I wouldn't have made that much money, but I probably could have done that. But it wouldn't have gained me a whole lot. All right, so part one is just dropping back all the way into the corner. And as soon as he takes Shiloh Church, then that'll trigger phase 2. The problem with trying to hold here is that eventually I will get overwhelmed. He's got me by almost 10,000 men. If I fall back to Pittsburgh Landing, not only do I even the odds because I get Buell's men and the numbers end up even, but then I'm sitting in fortifications. And then I can just fire away at him. The only place it's going to be an issue is right after the Hornet's Nest. A couple of my units aren't going to be able to get out of there quick enough. They're going to have to turn and engage briefly before they fall back, just to delay him a little bit. Everett Peabody, thank you. That is the man. I think one thing that would have affected this battle a great deal is the weather. I think the plan was to actually attack on April 4th, which would have given them plenty of time to try and destroy Grant's army before Buell arrived. But the weather kind of slowed things down. Obviously, there was that. There's General Johnston being killed during the battle. They hid that fact from the troops. Hey, James Hartley, nice job winning at Chickamauga. I had an uncle who was killed at this battle. Actually, I think he was killed on the 8th at Fallen Timbers, which was kind of an aftermath of Shiloh. But his name was, give me a second to think of it. I'm drawing a blank now. I've got so many Civil War soldiers that I research and keep track of. But what's cool about him is that he actually wrote all these letters home, and they were in his pension file at the National Archives. I actually got to read these letters written, the original letters. I was holding them in my hand, of a man who was killed at Fallen Timbers on April 8th, 1862. Of course, this was the bloodiest battle in American history to that point. Of course, that happened a dozen or so times during the Civil War, where a battle took that title. Again, going to drop back, let it trigger the next phase. We may see a little bit of his troops here on this part. I could, yeah, you're right. I could bloody him a little bit. The horseshoe battle thing. James, are you talking about the Spotsylvania battle? I don't remember what it's called on here, but I typically try to punch a hole in one part of the line just by lining up 4 or 5 brigades deep and just punching the hole and then fan out that way. And I think that's actually the strategy the Union tried to employ in that battle. Yeah, skirmishers could come in handy right here. And it may be that I have to break some off to cause a delaying action. Of course, the one of the generals who was, I think, a division commander in this battle was Lew Wallace, who later on, you see him portrayed in the movie Young Guns. He's the governor of New Mexico Territory. He's most famous for writing the book Ben-Hur that has become a couple of movies. And there was W.H.L. Wallace. There were 2 General Wallaces who commanded divisions for the Union here. I think W.H.L. Wallace died defending the Hornet's Nest. Of course, this battle really got William Tecumseh Sherman on the map. He was a division commander and performed very well in this battle, and his stock really rose after Shiloh. Grant's stock actually plummeted. He got blamed for the casualties. The rumors were going around that he was drunk during the battle, and he actually was removed from command for a while because of the outcry in the press against Grant in the aftermath of this war, of this battle. Of course, eventually he was put back in command of one of the armies and immediately went about going after Vicksburg. All right, we've got to drop the artillery back first, get them out of here. Muhammad, Wallace died during an attempted breakout from the Hornet's Nest. Gotcha, okay. I knew it was in that area, and I knew he defended there. I like how soldiers are just standing right in front of the artillery. Yeah, you know, that's... And I absolutely take advantage of the fact that friendly fire is a non-factor in this battle, or in this game. I gotta go up and just kind of clear out this cavalry before he gets at any of my artillery. Alright, we can go ahead and drop these guys back. Question, what's Ultimate General Civil War or Napoleon Total War with the Civil War mod? Wow, you know, it's really hard to compare the two. Honestly, if I was picking one game or the other, and I could only play one or the other, I'd choose Ultimate General Civil War. But it depends on what you're looking for. The AI is awful on that mod, on that game. I kind of hate how bad the AI is on that game. If it had a campaign like the vanilla game does, then I might feel differently. And of course, if this one had multiplayer, well, geez, this would probably be my all-time favorite game if they had multiplayer on this one. So it's hard to say. I mean, honestly, I like them both for different reasons. This is the skirmish of Shiloh so far. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. There's going to be massive fighting happening, I promise. It's going to be a bloodbath in front of Pittsburgh Landing. And you can see here, I'm already starting to get some of my reinforcements from Buell. It says Buell's Corps, but honestly, it was a separate army. Throughout, especially the latter stages of the war, there were multiple armies operating in the various theaters. I mean, you had, in the east, you had the Army of the James. You had the Army of Virginia. Of course, at First Bull Run, you had the Army of the Potomac, which was a Confederate army. And you had the Army of Northern Virginia, which was a Union army. Alright, we're about to trigger the final phase here. Okay, so this is going to trigger it in just probably 2 or 3 minutes. We should go to the last phase of the battle. No, don't route, don't route, don't route. Alright, what are we waiting on here? Buell's army would later be, yeah, the Army of the Cumberland. I think you had 3 armies in the West. The Army of the Cumberland, you had the Army of the Ohio, and the Army of the Tennessee. Union usually named their battles after rivers. Oh, look at this guy. He's going to come at me here a little bit. This should be triggered pretty soon, I would think. Alright, there we go. Alright, now we've got to get everybody shifted over. Pause. Okay. First things first. I'm going to start dropping back whoever I can as quickly as I can. And then I'll worry about who I get put where as they get closer. Especially want to get the artillery back as quick as I can. And what I'm not going to do is stick my artillery in those little fortifications in front, which I know is what historically they did. But being that in this game, friendly fire is a non-factor and you can fire right through your frontline troops, I'll stick them behind me. Whew, he's got somebody already up close here. Luckily, I've got my gunboats down here on the river. So I'm gonna start plugging people into the fortifications, but that's not necessarily who I'm gonna keep there. I've just got to get forces in there as best I can. There's a button called slow motion. Yes, there is, right there. You know, I've never used that button before. So we'll go ahead and use the slow motion button. This guy's going to get flanked and hopefully drop out. So look at this. We've got one valiant unit of Loomis's skirmishers holding off something like 14,000 men right here. That's fantastic. Yeah, so I didn't know that, you know, I knew that button was there, but I've never used it before. Feels like Dunkirk, yeah. Yeah, Janice, you know, I love the quote. I think it was Sherman who said to Grant, well, Grant, we've had the devil's own day, haven't we? And then Grant says, yes. And then he takes a puff of his cigar. He says, yes. Lick 'em tomorrow, though. And that's exactly what they did. Yeah, those 1,300 are not going to be my only line of defense over there. They're just who's there for now. Just give me some time to get these guys into place. We're going to sacrifice these couple of units of skirmishers to slow everybody down. Beauregard should have been removed and demoted to below private after his mismanaging of what should have been a Southern victory. So Albert Sidney Johnston, who of course was killed during this battle, was one of the very few generals in this war who I believe was actually a general before the war. He was one of the highest ranking officers in the U.S. Army to have, previous to the war, to have fought in the Civil War. Favorite pre-World War II movie? Oh, wow. I'm a big fan of Gettysburg. I have to think about that a little bit. Alright, so now we can organize things a little bit. I'm gonna stick Marshall over there. Now, eventually, I am gonna remove these smaller units in favor of larger ones. And what tends to happen is I'll drop him out of fortifications, and he'll immediately charge, which is fine with me. Waterloo is fantastic, Sir Rommel. That's one of the first ones that popped into my head. And HOI 4, I am waiting to see Darkest Hour. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to. Zulu is also very good, John Payne. Those are all great choices. So a couple things I got to watch for. Number one is, of course, where he's going to mass for a melee attack, which I know will come. The second thing is, let's see if he attacks here when I drop out of those fortifications. The second thing is I got to watch my flanks and make sure he doesn't try to load up on one of those sides. Yeah, James Hartley, I'm with you on Waterloo. The way that was made gives it a big leg up on a lot of movies because, you know, it's pre-CGI, it's before all of those things, and just a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of people were involved in that. Darkest Hour, I am looking forward to seeing that one. Alright, here comes his first melee attack. And he's loading up over on this side. So we're actually I'm gonna shift some units back over that way. Yes, I did know that about Waterloo, with those soldiers being members of the Red Army. Gladiator's depiction of the Roman army was cool. I agree. I like that a lot. There's actually some cool scenes from the HBO series Rome, showing kind of how the Roman army operated a little bit. Christopher, yeah, there's probably a little bit of static on the box. We're in the process of moving, and some of my lighting is not real bright in here, and that causes it to be harder to make the distinction between my green screen behind me and me. Once I move into my new office here in the next week or so, there's a lot of lighting in that room. It's going to be a lot better to kind of distinguish between me and my green screen behind me, so that static won't be an issue. I do know what you're talking about there, though. Alright, so he's going to hit me there and be driven off. Pretty soon I'm going to start getting the reinforcements from Buell. The Patriot, ooh, wow. You know, I have strong feelings about that movie just because I'm glad they portrayed that part of the war, even though it was heavily fictionalized, and they took it to the extreme to make you really hate the character of Tavington, which is based on Bannister Tarleton. He wasn't nearly as evil a guy as they portray him there. But the fact is, I mean, people forget the American Revolution was a civil war. It was a civil war, and it was Americans against Americans, and I had ancestors, two of my ancestors, in fact, who were loyalists, who were hanged by Patriot militia because of their loyalty to the crown, even though they were neighbors to each other. So, I mean, that stuff happened. I don't know of any situation where an entire town got locked up in a church and burned, but that stuff did happen. But yeah, they did. I mean, they tried to make... They made the British look like the evil guys and the Americans were the good guys. But take it from me, as an American who had American ancestors hanged by other Americans, the Americans were not all good guys. At all. Alright, so now he's starting to load up over here on this side. So I just got to watch. And I've got my cavalry over there if I need to hurl them in for melee defense. But for the most part, I think the danger is over. No, there wasn't a town that was locked in a church and burned. And the guy, Tavington... lucky us Belgians are all good guys. Yes. How far, HOI, how far are you from the Waterloo battlefield? I'm just curious. Because I believe that's in Belgium, isn't it? A lot of battlefields. And boy, Belgium, for a small country, there's so much military history there. James Hartley, where do you live? I may have asked you this before, but where do you live in the UK? My dream and my plan was to actually visit the UK this summer, but buying a house kind of superseded that. Oh yeah, Rayard, I'm totally counting on the fact that he will not rush me, which is why I did this the way I did, because I know he won't do that. John Payne, no, I do not have to attack all these rebels tomorrow, and I'll show you why. Right now, you can see that victory conditions include having to hold one of those actually, no, I take that back. One of these must be fulfilled. Hold one of those 3, or inflict at least 20% more casualties on the enemy, and hold Pittsburgh Landing. All I got to do is hold Pittsburgh Landing and inflict 20% more casualties, and I win the battle, and clearly I'm doing that. So my butt ain't moving from this spot. James Hartley, Robin Hood's place. My paternal line, my father's last name is Snowden. My Snowdens come from Edwin Stowe, which I believe is ground zero for Robin Hood. Edwin Stowe is kind of my father's side's hometown. On my mom's side, we're from mostly the West Midlands, around Birmingham. Tipton is the name of the village. HO3, oh man. I don't know. I don't have that installed anymore, but I definitely put many hours into Hearts of Iron 3. I don't know if any of you have Hearts of Iron 4 and you've played since the new update. They've made some nice changes to the game. I was playing it for a little bit the first time today. I like some of the changes they've made with the latest update. I'll probably show some of those off at some point. So, oh, look at these skirmishers are still alive over here. Let's see if we can get them to safety. Yeah, you're right, Rayward. I will do that. Get some other guys to get some action here. It may also cause him to suddenly choose to attack me. Sometimes that happens when he sees a guy drop off the line. Like so. It's funny how that happens. The second he sees a guy drop out of the fortifications, he does that. Let's go ahead and get a little down here. I'm going to wait until after we throw back this assault to switch them out. Alright, I think we're safe now. Oh yeah, there's the canister. Nice. James Hartley, it's not bad, the vanilla game. If you get into like the Black Ice mod, it gets really, really super deep and complicated. Edward Snowden, Angie Fisk, no, not to my knowledge. I am no relation to Edward Snowden, at least not anywhere close. My Snowden direct line goes back, actually, my 9th great-grandfather was the guy who signed the Continental currency, all the paper bills for a couple of years. He lived in Philadelphia, went to church with most of the founding fathers. Here he comes. Big time. And so, like, right around 1779, 1780, you can see a lot of the Continental currency was signed by, I think his name was John Snowden. He was my 9th great-grandfather on my direct mail line. Alright, let's bring some guys down here. Hazen's going to get driven off the line for just a minute, but that's not a big deal. We will throw this attack back. Where are those reinforcements from Buell? They should be coming soon. And there we go. We get the canister fire going. You know what? If I try to get out here on this side, he sends units up to face me. I've tried that in the past. It doesn't usually work to try and get on his flank over here. All right, there goes McCook. Again, not a problem. I intentionally gave myself depth for just such a situation. Hey, Brian Barrett, welcome. Yeah. I guess that's another thing I'd love to see on this game would be the ability for mods, like you see in so many other games like Hearts of Iron, etc. It'd be cool if they made this moddable. But, I mean, you're talking about a company that's relatively a new company. They're not like Paradox, who's got, a big budget and lots of people working for them. Yeah, but multiplayer would be fantastic on this game. I'd probably never play anything else if there was multiplayer for this. Yeah, if he was smart enough and he just threw the bus at me, I wouldn't stand a chance. But I counted on that with my strategy. I was going to ask, do I mainly cover Civil War or do I do other historical wars as well? Well, my main thing is, what happened was when I decided to start this channel a little over a year ago, I tried some different games. And what happened was, this game was still an early release. It was fairly new. And almost instantly when I started making videos, I found that I was getting a lot more views on my Ultimate General videos than I was anything else. And it wasn't even close. And so I started playing it a lot more. And even now when I've tried to do more of other things, I get 4 or 5 times the views on Ultimate General that I do anything else. And so I've found it's hard for me to get away from it. On top of that, historically speaking, just in terms of my own personal knowledge of history, the Civil War is probably one of 2 or 3 areas of history that I know the most about, and so I'm the most comfortable talking about. Probably with that would be World War II, and then British medieval history are kind of my areas of expertise, if you will. I wouldn't really consider myself an expert, but I was a history major in college. My plan had always been to be a history professor. That was kind of my goal in life. EU4, yes, I do play it. I've got a series that I occasionally play on, but it's not one that's widely watched. And honestly, EU4 is not a real exciting game to make videos about just because it's a lot slower pace. So I can see why, folks might not be as into that. They may mass charge at the end. Yeah, they may, but by the end, I should have those reinforcements from Buell. I'm honestly surprised I haven't already gotten them. But I should have another 10,000 men showing up any minute now. Here he comes. Yeah, he's throwing a lot at me right now. But I can hold it. How many kills do my guns have? Okay, here comes the Frenchman Rousseau. We've got a Kirk right here. We're going to throw him in. We've got a Gibson. Kirk and Gibson, if you're a baseball fan. Kirk Gibson. Yeah, I'll take a look at the guns in just a second and let you see. But here comes my 10,000 men that I was waiting on. I'm going to wait to put anybody back on the line for just a second while I get these guys up. Yes, Christopher Llewellyn, I do have that game. And I've done a couple of videos a while back when it first came out, and I was relatively clueless on how to play it. Steel Division, yeah. It's a fun game to play. It's a lot of fun. Oh, I said I wasn't going to do that. Oh, I thought I had Gibson coming down, but I guess not. Alright, let's rush these big units down here. And then I'll go ahead and take a look at the guns. Alright, so let's see. We've got Bloom has 1,000 kills. Those are 6-pounder smoothbores. A lot of canister fire there. 1,500 kills for my 10-pounders. My 24-pounders have 1,367. Only 379 over here for my Napoleons, but they haven't seen a lot of up-close action. I probably should have put them over here and maybe moved the 24-pounders over here in hindsight. Yeah, EU4, I think if I'm going to really focus on doing a series, the way to go would be to do a multiplayer or to play a historical, like somebody suggested earlier today about maybe doing like Prussia. Christopher Llewellyn, yes, I said your name correctly. He must be from the Northeast. I'm from Northeast Ohio. It's a very Welsh name you have there. All those consonants kind of give it away. Yeah, I'd love to be able to field 3,000-man brigades. Nathan Snell, welcome. Better late than never, but hey, the good news is you can go back and watch the whole thing later on. Obviously, just can't interact, but Revolutionary War, I've been spending more time studying as of late. The John Adams series and then Turn Washington Spies, which of course has some fictional elements to it, really got me back into interest into the Revolutionary War. All right, here comes another melee assault. Casualties for this battle are going to be interesting to see. Texans try to use the Spanish. Oh, I see what you're saying. With the L's making a Y sound. Gotcha. Well, and Welsh names tend to have funny spellings and funny pronunciations. They're kind of like Polish in that way. Where you have D's that make TH sounds sometimes. 3,000 men is a... Yeah, it's kind of like Janus. It reminds me of Gettysburg, where some of the Confederate brigades were the size of some of the Union divisions. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. Of course, the second day really is just going to be mop-up action, holding on to where I am. I'm not going to advance out from the strength of my position. Rise of Nations, is that what you're talking about? HOI 4? That's a game, boy, I remember that one well. That was a fun game. Oh, here comes another attack. Loomis may get driven out here. Loomis number 1, not to be confused with the Loomis behind him. Unity of Command, also an interesting game. I haven't gotten into that one too much so far, but that's one I may check out. I play a lot of Order of Battle as well. It's a fun World War II, kind of a turn-based thing. Pickett's division was twice the size of the Union 2nd Corps. Yeah, poor Pickett. He gets the charge labeled for him, even though he only commanded one of the 3 divisions in that battle. So now you can see here, going into day 2, now I have the advantage by about 7,000 men. I don't think I've got the money to reinforce, or I would. No. And of course, you can't go back to barracks at this point. So we're just going to dive into this one. Thrones of Britannia. No, I don't think I've ever played that one. I'm trying to think. There was a game that I started playing a little bit that was kind of... And you can see here that it actually opens up further back on the map now, which is interesting. There was a game that I played, and I'm trying to remember if that was it. All right, I want to get my troops off the line and replaced with all of Buell's men. I visited Don Carlos Buell's grave out in, I think that was in St. Louis. That was my visit to one of the cemeteries in St. Louis where I think Buell's there. General Pope is buried in St. Louis. General Sherman's buried in St. Louis. number of Confederate generals too. Attila, yeah, I've been playing Attila. I've been really getting into that one. I've been playing it here and there. I've been playing the Total War Attila with the medieval mod, so that I'm actually trying to unite the thrones of England right now, Wessex, Northumberland, etc., into one nation. Oh, okay. That's a standalone for Attila. Gotcha. Yeah, Shiloh, especially for the Confederates on what's it called? On Legendary mode is brutal, and I did not even attempt. I barely hung on for a draw on Legendary mode. You're going to see Pearl Harbor. Have you not seen... Oh, you're seeing the actual place. Be prepared. This surprised me. I was at Pearl Harbor back in 2002 because my wife and I, we took our honeymoon there when we got married 15 years ago. There were more Japanese people at Pearl Harbor than there were Americans, and that kind of took me by surprise. Which, it makes sense when you think about it, because Hawaii is actually closer to mainland Japan than it is to most of the United States. Alright, let's get these 10-pounders up off the line here. Pull Lyle back. Get Boyle in there. And basically, I'm just going to sit here and defend, and it gives us a chance to talk a little bit while this battle plays out. But Pearl Harbor was it was amazing to see and visit such an important place in American history, and certainly in world history. So I had another question I was going to ask our resident Belgian. I was going to ask you, have you ever been to some of the World War II battlefields? Bastogne, for example, or I know for me personally, being a huge fan of Band of Brothers, I would very much love to visit some of those places like the Bois-Jacques outside of the town of Foy. So much history there, at least for our, the Battle of the Bulge. My uncle fought at the Battle of the Bulge. Japanese fire balloons, yes. I know they had a number of them that landed in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know a lot about them, but I have heard about those. Yeah, casualties are going to be way above real life. And they are in a lot of these battles, honestly. I mean, because some of these battles, you're talking about battles that historically had hundreds of casualties, and we're making it far worse. All right, we're going to go ahead and just fast forward these last 3 hours unless something interesting happens. I'm just going to let him throw everything he's got at me. Supply will become an issue at some point, but that's not a big deal, really. So, yeah, you've been to those places too. Very cool, very cool. I would love to be able to visit Europe and go to some of those World War II battlefields, even World War I battlefields. The Douaumont ossuary, where they have something like 100,000 soldiers, German and French soldiers' bones from the Battle of Verdun. I see you're mentioning the Somme and Verdun now. Yeah, I would love to visit some of that. I've watched some YouTube videos of people's visits to Douaumont, to that fort. That was such a big part of the Verdun. Because I'm actually in the book that I'm listening to right now about World War I. They're on to the part about the Battle of Verdun in 1916. Fredericksburg, Texas. I've actually not spent a lot of time in Texas. I was in Texas last fall for 2 weeks. I spent a week in Fort Worth and a week up in the Panhandle north of Amarillo. In a little town just maybe 5 miles south of the Oklahoma border. A Pacific War Museum, very cool. When I was in Texas, I didn't have a lot of time. I went to see Dealey Plaza, where President Kennedy was assassinated. And it's kind of interesting. Some places you visit, you have a very different picture of them once you visited than you did before. Dealey Plaza was one of those places for me. Everything's closer than I thought it would be. You don't really get a feel for it by watching videos of the place. Standing up in the place where Oswald is said to have fired, the shot was not nearly as impressive once I saw it in person. Antietam was like that for me. Standing at Burnside Bridge, looking up at the place that was held by the Confederates from Georgia, you understand a whole lot better why it was so easy to defend against this narrow bridge. So those are just a couple of places for me. Iwo Jima, that would be amazing. I imagine not many people get to visit there just because it's such a remote location and so far away. But that would be an amazing place to visit too. Alright, I think things have pretty well settled down here. And I think that's the way it's going to be. So it frees me up to have a little bit of more time to talk here. And just reviewing again. Victory, we're good on victory. Inflict at least 20% more casualties on the enemy. So after this, I believe we get to the Valley Campaign, which should be interesting. Try and change history there. And then, of course, we get into the 7 Days fight. Yeah, Sega Prophet, yes. There's only one Confederate unit fighting today, Rayward says. Yeah, a couple of them are kind of staying close. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I did see that. There was a History Channel, I think, did a series where they focused on, I think it was Hitler and Churchill and a couple of other folks from their World War I experiences. And they showed that how he couldn't get his mask over, so he cuts the mustache to fit. Actually just been watching a really, really good series on Netflix. I think it was about Hitler's inner circle. There were like 10 episodes to it, and it was Hitler's Evil something or other, but it was really, really good and well done. I highly recommend it if you're interested in that sort of thing. Beauregard's being a Confederate McClellan right now. Now, he was the Confederate McClellan on April 6th, the first day. He missed his chance now because he's outnumbered, but he did have his chance. The Great War Channel, I've checked that out some. You're right, Sir Rommel, excellent channel. I highly recommend that one. They've got some great content on their channel. Hello, Felicity Baker, welcome. I see you've got your icon appears to be German in nature. Are you from Germany? Or you just like Germany? A lot of my family came from Germany. I'm trying desperately to learn German. It's been a little slow, and I haven't gotten to it lately because we're getting ready to move. But I want to get back to my Duolingo lessons on German. The worst Confederate general of the war. You know, Hood was not a terrible general until he got to the level of Army command. Some of these generals were great generals until they got promoted. A.P. Hill, Richard Ewell, for example. Wow, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Braxton Bragg as a general. I don't know, I'd say he's the worst. Who was the best Civil War general in my opinion? Wow. I'm a big fan of Stonewall Jackson. I don't know enough about this guy, but from all I've read of him and the little knowledge I have, Nathan Bedford Forrest was a fantastic cavalry officer. Relatives in Munich, very cool. My family primarily, I believe, comes from southwestern Germany. I could tell you the name of the town, but I actually can't remember it at the top of my head. But if you give me a minute, I will look it up. It's got a really long German name. But I believe it's in the southwest. Meade, I don't think Meade was a bad general. He just didn't have a lot of chance to show what he could do because he basically had his superior officer shadowing him for the last 2 years of his command. I've never been a huge fan of Sheridan. I don't know why. It's not because I don't think he was a good general. But yeah, Hood should never have been promoted. Hood went through a lot. Stonewall Jackson. And some people argue that the nickname Stonewall wasn't even a compliment, that it was really more of an insult. But I guess there's no way to know for sure because the guy who gave him the nickname was mortally wounded in that battle. Claiborne. Yeah, Patrick Claiborne was an excellent general. Longstreet was a fantastic general as well. All right, there we go. Victory at Shiloh. Let's look at the numbers. Okay, I'm surprised they weren't worse, but considering I was outnumbered for the better part of that battle, 6,400 casualties for me. I will take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday in a battle such as Shiloh. Let's take a look at the goods here. Not a whole lot captured. Obviously, I'm not going to do much with these farmers. We rescued some of our Lawrences that we lost. Looking at wow, this is actually really nice and really important moving forward. I've got myself a bunch of brigadier generals now. Sherman's one of my favorite Union generals. I think Sherman was great, and he's really interesting. I don't think people give enough credit to what that man had to overcome during the war. He overcame serious depression, overcame the loss of several children. I've mentioned this several times before, and he wasn't the only one to lose children during the war. But he overcame a lot. He really did. Early was a decent general. Yes, he was. There were a lot of generals, really, and there's Ulysses Grant, who's going to become our new 2nd Corps commander. Let's go ahead and... No. Okay. Career points. All right. As much as you guys may hate this, we're going 2 reconnaissance right here. Let's take a look moving forward. We're going to finish up here in just a couple minutes, but obviously we've got Secure River, Seven Pines, Rendezvous, and Gaines Mill. So I guess we don't get into the... I'm thinking of the Confederate campaign where you play some of the battles of the Jackson's Valley campaign. So we're going to have Seven Pines, Gaines Mill. I'm just curious. Obviously, it's too early to tell this, but I just want to see what his army numbers look like right now for Gaines Mill if it was fought as things are. So, Old Gloomy Pete. Yeah, Longstreet. I think he was underrated as a general. Wish there was a story mode game for the Civil War. That'd be cool. Sheridan was a bastard, but he was a great general. Look at his Valley campaign. He led the charge up Lookout Mountain. Yeah. The Butcher Grant in command of a corps. Hope you like Russian losses. Yeah, I honestly, I'm not impressed with Grant the tactician. I think he was outshined by a lot of generals. Grant strategically was the difference maker. He understood what it took to win the war, and he did it. But tactically speaking, no. I mean, he got outfoxed time and time again. Even in trying to take Vicksburg early on, his initial efforts to take Vicksburg didn't go so well. So we're just looking ahead here to next week. We're going to have Secure River, and we're going to have 12 brigades going in there, and he's going to have a decent sized force in that one. I seem to recall this is a battle that I'll kind of come at him from this way. I'm trying to remember that one. It's been a while, but I should be able to at least go toe-to-toe with him with pretty even odds, if not more. So that'll be another one of those battles that maybe I can completely wipe him out and take out some men moving forward. You have to put McClellan in charge of a corps because he's a major general. I'm going to avoid that if I can, but yeah, you're right. You kind of have to. Which is funny because McClellan wasn't ever really, I mean, he was either an all or nothing kind of guy. He was an army commander or he wasn't. He didn't rise through the ranks like a lot of people did. Yeah, as a grand strategist, Grant was excellent. You have to admit that. As a tactician on a battlefield, But hey, I mean, he did what nobody else did, which is win the war. So you got to give him that credit at least. All right, our 24 pounders are up to 2 stars now. I'm not going to do all of this right now, but I am going to go ahead and at least do some of this. These are 10-pounders. I want to get accuracy with my 10-pounders. So we'll do a little bit of this now, but I'll save probably most of it for later on. Hey, I finally got enough 12-pounders or 24-pounders to field a full battery now. The ends justify the means. I think that was kind of Grant's strategy there. We can buy some more 1855s. That may be the way to go here. Harper's Ferries or those. But I'm going to save that for next week. Hey, there's Uncle John Sedgwick. He of the They Can't Hit an Elephant at This Distance fame. But also who probably helped save the day at Gettysburg. How many kills did the 2400s have, or the 24-pounders have? They had 1,960 kills. They lost 11 men at Shiloh. So a good day for them. Let's go ahead and look at some of these other ones here. 1,267. These 10-pounders, 2,396. No wonder these guys got up to 2 stars. The Napoleons, they actually had kind of a slow day. Grant was willing to win battles on the dead bodies of his men. Brian Barrett, you're absolutely right about that. And that did not please a lot of people in the North. Mrs. Lincoln thought he was a butcher and called him such. A lot of newspapers did as well. But, U.S. Grant was not his original name. His name was Hiram Ulysses Grant. And it had something to do with, he actually changed it to Ulysses Hiram Grant because he didn't like that his initials spelled Hug, is how I understand it. And then somehow it got changed to Ulysses Simpson Grant when he got to West Point, and he stuck with it. Grant's grandmother, her name is Rachel. I forget her last name off the top of my head, but it was his grandmother was actually buried about 15 miles from me here in Northeast Ohio in a little town called Deerfield. Rachel Kelly is her name, and she's buried because they kind of, Grant was from Ohio, like a lot of the Civil War generals were, and a lot of the presidents who came after the war. Keep losing artillery units during long battles because the enemy artillery seems to focus fire one at a time down the line. Yeah, Sega Prophet, that is true, and you have to be careful to keep your artillery protected against that, especially if he's got long-range artillery on the battlefield. So, yeah, I try to keep them in the woods, keep them somewhere where they've got a little bit of cover. And if that's the case, then I try to use my long-range artillery on them. AI loves shooting artillery at sniper skirmishers. Luckily, they can get good cover to be invisible and still fire. So, I'm just looking ahead here to Secure River. I may basically go with the build that I have here. I'll probably swap out one of these batteries for one more unit of infantry, but I'll do that next week. So, Christopher Llewellyn, the plan is to continue to live stream this series. Hey, James, thanks for sticking around. I'm thinking if it's okay with you guys, I may try to start these a little earlier for some of my friends over in Europe, because I know it's awfully late for you, and I appreciate your support, and I want you to continue to be able to do these. So maybe I'll try to start a little earlier. Maybe like 6 o'clock Eastern time. Of course, we change our clocks tonight, so I don't know if that affects you guys at all, but we're actually springing ahead, so maybe that'll close that distance. Because it's actually, right now, it's 9 o'clock p.m. my time, but it would actually be 10 o'clock p.m. this time next week. So that'll actually help close that gap, I think. And if I start a little sooner, maybe. So I think for now, I'll start at 6 p.m. next week. So that might be a 2-hour difference for you guys in Europe with our time change next week. And we'll plan for 6 p.m. next Saturday night. If that changes for any reason, I will do a channel update a few days before to let you guys know that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. So again, thank you guys so much. I look forward to this all week. It's my favorite part of this channel is doing these live streams. It's been so much fun to be able to interact with everybody, people who have the same passions for gaming and for history that I do. Just a lot of fun. So thank you guys for being a part of this, and I look forward to next week, and we'll continue on from here. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.